Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I get a recommendation that the January 7th, 2026 Committee of Adjustment meeting be called to order at 7 p.m. Moved by Wayne, seconded by Louise. All in favor? And that is carried. Good evening and welcome to the January meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. Before I begin, or before we move on, I'm going to read the territorial acknowledgement. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, we are reminded of the important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. I'd like to introduce our committee for this evening. To my right is Mr. Steve Miller, Ms. Kohler, Mr. Roth, and Ms. Lalonde. And my name is Tyler Bowman, chair of this committee. We are an independent body appointed by Wilmot Township Council. We have the power to make minor changes to existing zoning regulations and to approve some changes to existing non-conforming uses and to give consent. Each applicant will be notified in writing of the decision within 10 days. With the decision will be instructions on how it can be appealed. Any decision made by this committee can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, who will then hold a meeting and make final decision. Only the applicant and certain prescribed public agencies can appeal the committee's decision. If the decision on a minor variance is not appealed, it becomes final and binding after 20 days from the date of this meeting. If a decision on a consent is not appealed, it becomes final and binding after 20 days from the date the decision is mailed. The format of the meeting this evening will be as follows. Mr. Miller will introduce the application. The applicant will then be invited to come forward and add any additional information if they choose. Following this, anyone in the audience will have an opportunity to speak for or against the application. Committee members may then ask questions of the applicant or her staff, and the committee will then make a decision. So before we move forward here, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none at this time, I will look to get approval of the previous minutes. So can I get a recommendation to approve the December 3rd, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meetings be adopted as presented? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor? And that is carried. I will turn it over to you with our first application.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bowman. The first application this evening is minor variance A01/26 concerning 1366 Herbs Road. And this application is proposing to increase the maximum allowable area of all accessory buildings from 75% of the lot coverage of the main dwelling or 10% of the lot area, whichever is less, to approximately 111%, representing about 7.4% of the total lot area. The subject property is a nearly 1 acre property, which is agriculturally zoned and is developed with a single detached dwelling and a garage. As shown on the provided sketch in the report, the applicant is seeking to construct a 2,400 square foot detached garage at the rear of the property, and according to the applicant, this building would be used to provide additional storage for personal equipment such as an RV. On properties that are less than 1.2 hectares in size and agriculturally zoned, the accessory building requirements are in line with the residential zone. So again, it caps the accessory building area at 75% of lot coverage of the main building or 10% of lot area, whichever is less. Individually, this building represents about 106% of the existing house, which, in the opinion of staff, meets the overall intent of the accessory building regulations and is appropriate given the size of the overall property. And in circulating the application, staff did not receive any concerns and are recommending that it be approved.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on behalf of the application? No? Are there any questions from committee on this application? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve this application? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Mr. Roth. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. And Mr. Miller, the next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bowman. The next application is minor variance A02/26 concerning 94 Hastings Court in Baden. And so this application is proposing to reduce the exterior side yard setback of an accessory building from 6 meters to approximately 2.44 meters. The subject property is developed with a single detached dwelling located on Hastings Court in Baden. The subject property is located on a rounded corner of a court, and as such is considered to be a corner lot. So above and beyond the typical setback for a shed, which is 0.6 meters, it is 6 meters because, again, it is a corner property. This shed, again, is approximately 27 square meters in size, so it doesn't qualify for relief that some smaller sheds enjoy in the township zoning bylaw, and as such, minor variance is sought to recognize the location of the shed. The shed itself is being, again, on a rounded corner of a court, does not causing any visibility concerns, and as such, staff are recommending that it be approved this evening.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on behalf of the application? No. And there's no one else to speak to it. And can I get a motion, or sorry, any questions from the committee? No, seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve this application? Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. Sorry, Ms. Kohler, sorry. Can I get all in favor? And that motion is carried as well. On to our third application here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bowman. The next applications I will introduce together as they apply to the same subject property, being BO1/26, BO2/26, and BO3/26. And again, they all apply to 63 Benjamin Street in New Dundee. The subject property previously went through a zone change application as recently as November of 2025, at which point council rezoned the subject property from industrial to residential and a portion to open space. That portion is within the regulatory flood elevation. These lands were previously home to the New Dundee Creamery, which stopped operating in 1998. It's been vacant for quite some time as the buildings were demolished in 2005. And the now vacant property is part of an old underlying plan of subdivision, which consists of 6 separately conveyable properties set out in the original plan of subdivision, which dates back to the 1850s. Again, a legal opinion was obtained, which concluded that there were 6 conveyable parcels, but many of them, when considering a design envelope for a single-family dwelling as well as a septic system, they aren't perfectly rectangular in size, and so essentially the purpose of these applications is to rectify some of those issues and make them more rounded for development by increasing their size. There are some additional conditions that were implemented because of some potential reliance on future grading works, as potential for overland drainage as well, and the potential for an easement. So those have been included in the conditions. The conditions that were provided in the staff report do vary a little bit from what is being recommended this evening. As following the publishing of the staff report, the township received some additional comments from the Region of Waterloo. These comments were received yesterday, and as a result, the recommended conditions have been changed to reflect these comments from the Region of Waterloo. I have provided each committee member with a printed version. In addition, I did provide one to the applicant prior to this meeting, so they were made aware of the changes. The conditions relate to the owner obtaining an access permit for a proposed emergency access on Bridge Street, the implementation of the findings of the noise study, which was completed as part of the previous zone change application process. This essentially involves registering noise warning clauses on title of the properties to any purchasers and sellers of the property, as well as to identify the noise associated with the nearby roads and the fire hall. Additionally, there is wording for the submission of a lock rating plan for review by the Region of Waterloo, which is in addition to the Township's review of the lock rating and drainage plan, and this is because of Bridge Street being a regional road and the implications potentially for grading on that roadway. And then lastly, there is a request for the dedication of a daylighting triangle at the corner of Front Street and Bridge Street at the request of the Region of Waterloo. As it relates specifically to the daylighting triangle, the Region of Waterloo, through development application, does have the opportunity to request this. The lands in question are zoned Zone 11 open space, which does preclude development on those lands. It's on that point that the area that's being requested is not contemplated for development. So requiring a daylighting triangle does not impact the overall development lands in question. The region does typically make a nominal contribution towards the survey work associated with the daylighting triangle, but there may be additional cost borne to the applicant to convey those lands and survey them. Township staff would recommend that the revised conditions be included in their entirety and are recommending approval of the consents with the revised conditions.
Thank you, and I probably should have noted ahead of time, we're going to get the 3 separate applications introduced, but we're going to make separate motions on all 3 of them. The other piece is we all have Cameron gave us the changes to the application. You have that. Those are repeated just as a note for each of these applications. Is anyone in the audience wanting to speak on behalf, please? Just introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is Scott Patterson with Patterson Planning Consultants, here in full support of the staff report and recommendation this evening. I have reviewed the additional conditions as a result of the timing of the regional comments. Had several discussions with Cameron and planning staff about that, and I'm here in agreement with those as well. If there's any questions or concerns from committee, I'd be happy to answer them at this time, but here in full support.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on these applications? Mr. Rose, go ahead.
It's more related to, do you want me to introduce it at this time or wait until you call comments from us? Maybe. All right, that'd be better.
Any questions? Okay. Why can I call the order, or can I get a recommendation to approve, and we'll speak to B0126? Am I jumping? Okay, sorry. Go ahead, ask your question. Yep. I follow what you're asking. Okay. Anyone else want to come forward to speak? No? Okay, Mr. Rose, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This does not really apply directly to this application, but it is a question to Mr. Miller. In light of going forward with the reports we're receiving of the region and its water supply difficulties, will this begin to impact smaller applications such as this one in the future? I know that it can't now, but in the future, will that be something that we have to deal with? Or don't we know that answer just yet?
As it relates to the overall Mannheim recharge area, broadly speaking, Baden and New Hamburg are not part of that area. Understanding this application deals with properties in New Dundee. The Region of Waterloo did not highlight this as a concern. Okay. Again, being that these properties will be serviced by municipal water in New Dundee, it was not highlighted as a concern, whereas they would typically comment on that and have provided comment as recent of yesterday or the day before on other applications. So to that note, I don't believe they find it to be an issue in this case. But should it become an issue on other properties, again, not in Baden or New Hamburg, because it's not part of that area, they would likely provide comment on those items.
Yes, with experience at the regional level, things change there quite rapidly as well. And this is really kind of like a deep-seated issue that is very, very important to everybody. And I just hope that they get their act together and get us straightened out as quickly as possible, because it could have ramifications in many areas. So let's hope for the best.
Thank you. Ms. Lalonde, did you have a further question?
I was able to get my answer.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve B126? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we'll move right to B0226. Can I get a motion to approve that application? Moved by Mr. Rowe, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. All in favor? And that motion is carried. On to B0326. I am putting these all together. I'm not calling questions on that, each one, sorry. Can I get a motion to approve that? Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Ms. Kohler. All in favor? And that is carried as well. And we have one more, I believe, right?
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Moving on to the last application this evening, consent B04/26. And this application is proposing to sever approximately 1.2 hectares, being 3551 Bleams Road, as a separate industrial lot, while retaining approximately 2 hectares, being 220 Bergie Court, and to establish some easements for joint access and site servicing. So despite being one parcel, currently the subject property was previously held in separate ownerships, and there are, again, 2 addresses that apply to the subject property. Each address is developed with a separate industrial building, unique with their own dedicated surface parking, and together these buildings total approximately 125,000 square feet, currently home to Ontario Driving Gear Limited. There's currently no development plan for the site, and this application simply seeks to split the property, which would provide greater flexibility in the future should it be needed. In support of an application, even though this is simply splitting a property in half, there was some preliminary work that demonstrated that there'd be no impacts in separating these properties. Particularly, a parking analysis was conducted to demonstrate that each property individually meets the parking requirements for the existing operations based on the current square footage. And in support of that, there was also a technical memo which looked at stormwater management, lockering and drainage, and other technical aspects of each development of the lot. Essentially, what came of that was there were some existing easements that are established over the subject lands, but also the potential need for additional easements should these properties be separated. And so those easements are outlined in the recommended conditions of consent. And again, they look to secure overland drainage between the subject properties, and as well as some look to establish truck access and ensure that each property can operate individually without any issue. In addition to that, the applicants will be entering into a reciprocal operating agreement to address some of the joint servicing matters and the access provisions, as I've indicated. So staff feel that these items are adequately addressed through both easements and a reciprocal operating agreement. In circulating the application, staff did not receive any concerns and are recommending approval of the consent.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Would the applicant like to speak on behalf? Again, just please introduce yourself when you...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trevor Hawkins from MHBC Planning, here on behalf of the owners. We are in support of staff's recommendation. I'd like to thank Cameron for... It turned out, even though the application on its surface is fairly straightforward, it's just severing 2 buildings into 2 separate lots. There were a lot of intricacies with where the pipes were and where the stormwater was, and thank Cameron for helping work through that and identify the easements that are necessary to make it all function, and they have in the conditions, and we're in support of them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, the committee, do we have any questions on this application? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve application B0426, moved by Mr. Rose, seconded by Ms. Kohler? All in favor? And that motion is carried. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. So can I get a meeting to adjourn, or a motion to adjourn this meeting, and that we do now adjourn to meet again on February 4th, 2026, or at the call of the chair. Moved by Ms. Lalonde, seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you again for joining us this evening and the work with the township. Take care.